So I am going to finish up this meal prep, and this video I am going to put the Italian sausage rigatoni on here, as well as my shepherd's pie. So what I went ahead and did is I realized I completely forgot diced tomatoes at the store. And so I'm still going to make it, and I'm just going to make sure I grab some diced tomatoes prior to making this meal. And that way it can just be added in. So instead of rigatoni, we are going to use bow ties for this because it was cheaper this way than getting actual rigatoni. So that is what we're going to do. In the meantime, this recipe does say to put raw sausage in the bag, but I'm not going to do that. What I did is let me show you. I partially ground up the sweet Italian sausage with some onions and peppers. It does not call for onions and peppers to be cooked in here. It does call for it in the recipe, but I took some of it and I sauteed it in with the sausage. So as you can tell, it is not fully cooked. It is semi-cooked, but it's nice and crumbly and easier to work with for when it is being cooked, I feel. So I chose to do this. It is not how the recipe is. So use your own discretion for what you want to do. Alright, so I went ahead and I got my bag all prepped. It says what it is. I actually changed it from rigatoni to bow ties. I put the date, what I need to add, and then the cooking instructions on it as well. As you know, it's not just me that's going to be cooking these meals. My mom is going to be helping while I'm in the office 3 days out of the week. Alright, so I just bring it down a little bit so that way the outside don't get dirty, and then I just put it in my bowl so it can sit, and I open it up as best as I can. And then now what I'm going to do is I did pre-cook this so that way it cooled down a little bit so it wasn't nice and hot. It is warm, but it's not hot. So I'm just going to add this. This was a pound of ground sweet Italian sausage. And I'm making a mess. I did not drain the fat either, because my mom pointed that out, because I was going to. And she goes, "Oh, you shouldn't, because you're supposed to cook it raw." And all those juices would have been in there. So, very smart woman, tell you. Alright, so all the juices, all the stuff in there, all that great flavor is now in there. And like I said, it's still warm, but it's not hot. So, and then I'm going to add the can of tomato sauce. This is not plain tomato sauce. This is green pepper and mushroom tomato sauce. And it only calls for a 15 ounce. My parents like it really saucy, so I'm putting a whole 24 ounce in here. Then it calls for the green peppers, so I'm just going to add the rest of the green peppers in here. And then it calls for an onion, so I'm going to add a cup of onion. I just realized there's a big chunk of onion right there. Okay. I'm actually going to add a little bit more. Okay. Got onion flying everywhere. Alright, and then it calls for 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm only going to put 1 tablespoon of olive oil in because I cooked the sausage in about a tablespoon of olive oil. So, don't want it too greasy. This jar is, oh my lord. Actually, I think I cooked it in way more than 1 tablespoon, but so I'm only adding 1, and that's the reason why. But it does call for 2. Alright, the other thing it calls for is a teaspoon of basil and oregano. Well, I don't have that. What I do have, though, is Italian seasoning. So it has both of those with probably parsley. Oh, actually, it's thyme and oregano. Who knew? No basil. Alright, that's fine. Work with what you got. So I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of this in here. And I think I'm going to also add some parsley as well. It's not, to me, an Italian dish without some parsley. I love parsley. And I can't wait till it grows in my garden this year. And actually, I'm just going to dump whatever I have left in here. Bam. There we go. Done. So that was probably like a half a tablespoon in there. And then, so I think that's it. And then you add the, so it says 4.5 cups of drained pasta. So I don't know how much pasta that is, if it's a box or more. I did grab 2 boxes, so I'm covered if it is more. One. Might be a whole box. 2. 3. All right, it's a whole box. All right, that works. And now my family really isn't big on pasta. They're really not. They'd rather have all the meat with it. So even if it wasn't, if I had to open up another box, I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have still just dumped the box in there, to be honest. So, all right. So now I'm going to seal this up and mix it all up, and that's another meal. I'm going to actually trim the top. Want to crack the pasta. So there's a meal. All right. Now we're going to move on to the way I make my shepherd's pie, which is the new way I make my shepherd's pie since my parents did this around the world dinner for everybody at the campground that they're seasonal at. And I happened to get the United Kingdom. So unknowingly to me, shepherd's pie is originally from the United Kingdom. But the only difference is it's made with lamb. The way I'm going to make it is traditionally the UK way. The only difference is I'm using ground beef. They use lamb. So let me show you how I make it. Alright, so I'm actually going to use the same pan that I did this Thai sausage. The worst thing it's going to do is give it some extra flavor. So, why wash it and why use something else? Alright, so now I'm going to put in... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to put in. There's plenty of oil in there. I'm going to add the rest of my onions that I had pre-chopped up in the prior video. And I have an induction stovetop, so it's very specific on what pan goes where. And I don't know if you can see that red line or not, but if it's not the right size or the right kind of pan for an induction stovetop, it will beep at me and tell me, nope, sorry, I am not working. I hear it go off quite often when my mom cooks. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of my salt. And if you don't already know, if you didn't watch my prior video, I do use canning salt. I switched over a couple years ago when I started canning. So that way I can still can whatever food I make if it's cannable instead of freezing it. Because if I use regular table salt, I won't be able to can it. Alright, now I'm going to also use some pepper. And I do have it on medium-high. And for those of you that have the same kind of stove, I have it on a number 6. Alright, you guys, so I shredded my cheese and apparently didn't record it. So, I do need more cheese, so I am going to shred it again. So, this is my shred one. I just put it on here. And I'm just going to put a little bit more of, I used a block of pepper jack, you guys. I've used all different kinds of cheeses. This is the one I'm choosing to use this time. We have done cheddar, Parmesan, and mozzarella different times, sometimes mixed together. This time it's pepper jack. Alright. And this stuff up top, that's left up top, you guys, that crumble, it's still really good. And I just will sprinkle it on top. So no need to either get rid of it or put it away for something else. It's just as good. And then if you see, right here, cheese and some kind of sticky foods get caught right there. So I just take a knife and I just go in there and unstick it. And there we go. So now I have my cheese. I'm going to put it over there at my other station. And we're going to check on the ground beef. So this is the ground beef. It's almost done. Just keep mixing it. And there is a lot of fat, you guys. Because there is so much fat, I do plan on draining just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And I'll show you why in a minute. Because we're going to add more stuff to this. Alright, so we're going to call that done. Let me drain a little bit of this and I'll be right back. Alright, so I drained some of the oil, not all of it. It's still a good amount of oil in there. Let me see. You guys can see that. It's still a good amount of oil. So now what I'm going to do is I take the McCormick Brown, I don't know if you guys can see, let me lift you up a little bit. The McCormick Brown gravy packet. And I'm going to put 2 of those in this ground beef. You guys, you have not had shepherd's pie if you have not had it this way. If you're used to shepherd's pie with just ground beef, corn, and mashed potatoes, you do not know what you're missing. Just the smell already from this brown gravy going in here is so good. Alright, so then I'm going to mix it up. This is not all I'm adding in here. Alright, let me add the rest of it. So we add sweet peas as well, you guys. I mean, if you don't like peas, I'm sure you can definitely still do corn or carrots or whatever vegetable you want in here. I think that's going to be completely fine. So what I do is, as it's cooking, the heat is still on, as you can tell, is I just go ahead and I add the whole can, juice and all, in there. And then I'm going to add another can. The only difference with this can is I am going to dump out some of the juice, like probably half the juice. Because remember, we still had the fat in there that we left as well. So we don't need all this liquid. So now you have, I actually think I took out more than half. I just think I took out most of it. But that's fine. You don't have to use as much as I used as far as vegetables, but I think it's really good with 2 cans with 2 pounds of ground beef. Because if I didn't tell you, this is 2 pounds of ground beef, you guys. So I just gotta kind of stir it in, get those juices going. It is messy if you don't have the right size pan. And then I just kind of let it sit and do its thing. You really want to make sure the liquid got really into that powder of the gravy. You guys, this smells so good, and I'm kind of bummed out. This is not what's dinner tonight. Dinner tonight is going to be a freezer meal that I already had in the freezer that I had done a couple weeks ago, and it's lasagna. My daughter don't like lasagna, and she's with her grandmother this weekend, so she's coming back tonight, but after dinner time, so we are going to take the advantage of that and have lasagna. So, as you can already tell, you guys, let me move these cans. Sorry about that. As you can already tell, this is already pretty thick. Let me bring it down a little bit. There you go. You can see it's already thick. I actually think I might add a little bit of water in there because I think I dumped out too much juice. So about like a half a cup. If you end up dumping out all the juice, add another. You'll know when you need it because this still needs to cook down and get thicker because you want a good amount of gravy in there. You can't have gravy without the juice. All right, now I'm just gonna let this sit here with all that goodness and just let it simmer. I'm gonna put it on a low setting, and now we're gonna do the mashed potatoes. All right, you guys, so onto my mashed potatoes. The meat is simmering on literally on simmer, and when we started the last video, I put these potatoes in there, so it's been a couple of hours. So they are not as hot. They are still hot. I don't know if you can see the steam coming up. They are still hot. So I'm going to take these out and de-skin them. I did leave the skin on. So I'm going to have my, actually I'm not going to dirty another bowl. I have these bowls right here that are dirty. So I'm going to put my potatoes, make my potatoes in this, and put my scraps in this one. I want to show you how I do this. The potatoes are still pretty hot, actually. So I grab a paper towel. Or if I have them, which I don't, because all my clothes are folded upstairs, I have to, all my laundry's done, just gotta put it away. Or I can use like a dishcloth, if I had one, but I don't. I don't feel like going upstairs and grabbing it. So I'll get a knife, and I'll take each potato. Now remind you, they are hot. And I'm going just to cut the top off this way, the bottom off, and then just graze the skin, just to get the skin off. And then I turn it upside down to get the back half. Trying to waste as much, trying not to waste as much potato flesh as I can. So then that's going to go in there. Take the next and do the same thing. Now after I get a couple potatoes already in there, I will put a whole stick of butter. Unsalted, salted, it don't matter, whatever you have on hand. With potatoes, you need to salt them pretty heavy because they take a lot of salt to make them just right. This is just a big starch. Now, this one's on the bigger side, so I am going to cut this one in half when I put it in there. And now when the butter goes in there, because this is so warm, it's going to melt the butter. And that's why I put the butter usually on the bottom after a couple are already in there. You can literally just peel it off too sometimes, but I don't know if that piece is coming off. And I will compost these skins as well. I'm going to cut that in half, put it in there. So now there's about 4 potatoes in there because I cut that big one in half. And I'm going to put unsalted, just because what I have on hand, in here. Now, I do keep my butter at room temperature. Depending on the temperature of my house, depends on the temperature of my butter. If it is cold, obviously it's still going to be a solid break. This is actually pretty soft. And then I will make sure that my potatoes, my warm potatoes, that go on top of it, like that, when there's not a lot of potatoes in, just to start the melting process. So now all I'm going to do is do these potatoes. So now what I'm going to do is I have already a whole stick of butter in there, and I'm going to add my ground pepper. And there's a lot of potatoes in here, so I am putting a lot of black pepper in here and salt. So you're going to get along about the amount in here. Remember, unsalted butter. All right, and then I'm going to get milk. We use whole milk and my potato masher. I do it old school. I don't put it in a blender. I don't do anything like that. I straight up mash it manually. Because when I did take it to a blender, my husband thought I made instant potatoes, and I was very upset. So because of the texture of them, they were so smooth, he thought they were instant, which he does not like instant. So I was very offended because it was a lot of hard work to get those mashed potatoes so smooth. But now I know never to make them that smooth. And those are the potatoes after I mash them. And then this is when I add the milk. And I add a lot at first, and then I mix. Sometimes I have to add more, depending on how starchy the potatoes are. And I just keep mashing them, incorporating that milk. So I'm going to add a little bit more milk in there because it's still not the consistency that I want. And that should be good. Sometimes I get nervous I add too much milk, but then when I just keep mixing it, it's perfectly fine. And then that's good. Oops. Still kind of thick, so if I wanted to add some more, I could, but I'm not going to because these are going to freeze. So I don't want to add too much liquid to them because anything that's frozen will become watery after it defrosts. So we don't want watery mashed potatoes. So I am going to put it in a pan, one of these lovely pans that I got from DJ's. I'm going to take my meat. Look how beautiful that is, you guys. Nice and creamy. Oh, all that gravy in there. Delish. I'm just going to toss it in there. Oh, if you guys can smell. So apparently, again, you guys, I'm slacking and I did not record. So covering it with cheese. You can put as much cheese as you want, as little as you want. We like a lot of cheese. And what you can do with your leftover cheese, because it's freshly shredded, you don't want to stick it in a bag and put it in the refrigerator because then it will just be a big clump. You want to actually stick it in the freezer and it will stay nice and shredded like that for you. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that in the freezer. So when I need to use it again, and yeah, so now I'm going to add my mashed potatoes. These are a little bit on the thick side, but that's okay. And perfect amount of mashed potatoes too. Alright, so once all the mashed potatoes are on there, all you have to do is grab a spoon. You just grab a spoon and just it's a little bit stiffer because it's been sitting here for a little bit. I had to go take the dogs out, so it's usually a lot easier to work with, and the oil isn't usually up on the top like it is right now, making it a little bit more difficult. Usually it's just as smooth once it's nice and warm and still in here, but it's cold now. So that's quite all right. Make do. As even as you can get it, you guys. All right. That's fine. I'm going to just clean up the edges a little bit. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I was going to put plastic wrap on them, but I decided against it. When I do it for a month, freezer meals for a month, I will always put saran wrap on it to protect it from freezer burn. But since I know this is going to be eaten in the next week or so, I am going to just put aluminum foil on it to make it way easier for my mom. Just stick it in the oven. So literally from the refrigerator or the freezer, depending if I defrost it or not. And then I'm just going to write on it. And this is thick aluminum foil. It's not the cheap aluminum foil. Okay, let's see. So this is Shepherd's Pie. I know I'm spelling it wrong. I think that's an A. I don't even know. Okay, Shepherd's Pie. I'm going to put the date. And then bake 350 for about, I don't know. I don't usually, I'm going to say about 30 minutes. Uncover. I should put covered. Uncover. Broil for 5 to 10 minutes to get that crispy skin. And then that's another meal down. And this will have plenty of leftovers with, so this might be a lunch or another dinner, depending on how much is left over. So that is done. And so those are our 2 meals. So we have the shepherd's pie, and we have our Italian sausage bow tie. So those are 2 meals. So you guys, until next time, thanks for watching. Have a great day.